It is the 11th of March 2026. My name is Simbalaja Charles Kiage. Thank you very much for beginning your day with us right here at Look Up TV. There's a lot that we're going to talk about today, including looking at that PG meeting between ODM and UDA at the Kenyatta International Conference Center. We'll be telling you exactly what happened in details. I'll be telling you how the Linda MWANANCHI group defied the call from President Dr. William Ruto to go in and look at those issues, including receiving that report on the broad-based 10-point agenda implementation plan. We'll be talking about that this morning on a deeper level with our guest who will be walking into the studio this morning. In the meantime, you can talk to us at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms at a time when the country is taking stock of the devastation that the country has witnessed over the past couple of days, as majority parts of the country received heavy rainfall, with Nairobi accounting for more than 70% of all the deaths that have been witnessed in the country so far. The death toll has risen to 44, with the relevant agencies saying they are still looking for lost bodies or lost people across the country before we get the full effect of the rains that we've seen across the country. A lot of conversations have happened around this area as well in Parliament yesterday, both in the Senate and the National Parliament. We did see members of both houses talking about how we need to be more responsive and alert to this emergency, with suggestions from that kitty, the emergency fund kitty, getting released immediately after the Met Department issues those warnings, and also moving people in those high danger areas to spots where they can move away from the effects of the rains across the country. That is a snapshot of where we are. So you can talk to us again and Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. Our WhatsApp lines are right there on your screen. I'll be telling you exactly what happened yesterday on that PG. But this morning, let's take a look at what you're waking up to this morning on your dailies. And as usual, we're going to start with the Daily Nation. Let's look at it overall over new NTSA instant fines. This is what it is. Now, there's a court petition seeks the suspension of the system, arguing it denies offenders right to fair hearing. Indeed, it does. There's also public participation. PSV operators say the concept is good, but implementation is flawed. They say there are loopholes in it. While lawyers say the system is prone to abuse and there's no recourse against unfairness. There's also revenues here where consumer lobby wants full disclosure of deal between NTSA and Pesa Print. As why it stands, there's also what you have to know about this is that different roads have different speed limits. And by the way, do you know that even different highways have different speed limits? For example, the speed limit in some sections of Thika Superhighway is 110. But I know from Pangani maybe, or behind Pangani, it's 50 all the way to the CBD as the maximum speed. Do you know though that also the maximum speed you're supposed to drive in city areas or town areas is 30 kilometers per hour? Be informed so that you don't get on the wrong side of this. We're waiting to see exactly how this goes. There's already a petition in court that is seeking the suspension of the system, arguing it denies offenders right to fair hearing as well. Let's talk about the health crisis in the country that talks to resolve teacher sham grievances. Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Adana Duale has moved to forestall a crisis between the Social Health Authority and teachers who had threatened to pull out of the scheme, citing poor quality of services. That story has been covered on page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning. Other stories here that are on how Aga Khan is now planning as actually assault stake in Nation Media Group, the Aga Khan Fund for Economic Development, has entered into an agreement to sell its stake in the Nation Media Group PLC to Tarifa Limited. That story has been covered on page 5. Now, there's also one here on page 3. I mean, do you know this story? Where at least 15 people were killed. Now, if you want to do the total, then you will say about 17 or 18. Now, this how it happened. 2 border operators who had a head-on collision died on the spot. All right? Now, people moved to that particular scene to see exactly what had happened. Within that period, a lorry lost control and rammed into that crowd that had developed to witness that accident. So more than 13 people were killed instantly on that spot, with others later losing their lives after they visited the hospital. Now, it's being revealed here that 6 relatives were among the 15 killed in Webuye horror truck crash. Now, the truck driver reportedly lost control and plowed into a crowd that had gathered at an accident scene involving motorcycles on the Kitale-Webuye Highway Monday night, killing at least 15 people. The tragedy has thrown into mourning Malaha village on the outskirts of Webuye town, where 6 members of one family are among the ones who were dead. It's also a warning. I normally see this, you know, you're driving along the highway and you witness an accident that has happened, so you start slowing down as a driver so you can catch a glimpse of exactly what's going on. I mean, it's advisable. When you see an accident, keep away. Let the people who can handle it. Yeah? Because now you become a victim out of something that you could have just avoided. It's not really good. Good. We talk about this morning. That's exactly why we're here. ODM UDA 2027 election deal on the table as Ruto meets members of parliament. Now, what we do know, 2 billion has been set aside for the post-election violence, for the protests victims. I'll be telling you about that later on the highlights of that report that was tabled yesterday at the Kenyatta International Conference Center in that PG. Now, what we know, President William Ruto and the ODM leader Oburu Odinga have constituted an 8-member committee to explore a 2027 pre-election coalition agreement, even as they announced plans to compensate by June victims of police brutality and anti-government protests. That story has been covered on page 4. And this is what he said, that while life cannot be compensated, we can provide support to victims and families. We have already identified victims from as far back as the 2017 demonstrations. That's what the president said yesterday. Now, in that meeting, there were about 253 members of parliament out of the 359. So over 95 members of parliament didn't see the need to attend this particular sitting, that PG yesterday. We also did see a tough, can I call it? It wasn't a combat. I don't want to call it a combat this morning. I mean, Cecily Mbarire, who went in and asked the president what he has done so far about the 2/3 gender rule. And the president said they are committed to making sure that it does happen. But guess what? It is 4 years into his tenure. If it was supposed to happen, it would have already happened. Yeah? The president actually going up to the point of calling for support on the ground by members of parliament telling them, for those who share the same opinion that we need to achieve the 2/3 gender rule, say aye, and they all shouted aye. But when they go back to parliament, do they do really that? Just for you and I to say. Let's cross over then to the Standard this morning, see the major stories that have been covered here. Pipeline, the truth. Now, fearing Kenya Pipeline Company IPO would flop, President William Ruto's administration bent over backwards to secure Uganda's participation, granting Kampala sweeping influence over Kenya's most strategic assets. Uganda's national oil company emerged with a 20.15% stake, 2 board seats and veto power over the appointment of a KPC's chief executive and pipeline tariffs. Critics warn that concessions had a foreign government unprecedented sway over Kenya's fuel lifeline, raising alarm that Nairobi may have traded energy sovereignty for a politically convenient IPO success. Story has been covered on page 4. Now, if you look at that distribution, Government of Kenya has a 35% stake in it. Kenyan institutions, 40%. Uganda, NOC now, that is that government entity, has 20%. Kenya retail investors have 5%. All marketing firms, KPC, employees and foreign investors all share a 0.04%, 0.06% and 0.02% respectively. And we did see for the very first time the government extending that IPO for 2 days after they realized that, well, the purchasing of those shares was a bit sluggish. They did finally attain it by giving Uganda 20.1%. That's Uganda's national oil company. That is the NOC. Truths and revelations. So Uganda now has 20% stake in KPM. Was it necessary? Because we said we need to retain it in the country. If you look at this distribution, this is what we had wanted to see. That maybe the government of Kenya wanted to see it retaining that 35% stake. So probably Kenya's retail, this is exactly why they wanted to see it. They wanted this 0.04% to be added to this 20% that Uganda NOC has taken, so that we say 20.4%, because that's what the government kept on preaching. They said it's time that Kenyans buy in to their company, but it's not. It didn't work out. It didn't work out, because if you look at foreign investment, which is 0.02%, the biggest investment out of the Kenyan government and Kenyan institutions is Uganda. So number 3 in terms of that investment, and they've also come in with this the veto power to come in and have a say in KPC's chief executive and pipeline tariffs. They're also saying when it comes to the appointment, they also have a big say in it. So this man has a say in KBC. Yeah, in KPA, sorry. So that's the truth. All right. So you do know, majority of these stories have also been covered on our social media platforms and Look Up TV across of them. Been told we have the unsurprised pullout. Can we have a look at it before we check what is trending online? This is where we are. Starting a business, making money, getting connected. That's what it is. Why more industries are shutting down. Story has been covered on page 4 and 5. And SACCO's up push to develop new digital loan products, page 3. And Tehran crisis and 4 billion tea market question, page 4 as well. You know, Trump is fighting Iran, and that's where we're taking our tea. So you will see how we are trying to navigate that. With Trump saying that he's just about to win, saying he's going to go into the biggest win ever, that Iran is just about to give up. That's the latest update from White House. Also, the price of oil actually did jump. I went up to $150 a barrel for the very first time 2 days ago since 2022. So the last time it was above $150 a barrel was 2022. It jumped, got down, but then again started coming down after the announcement that Trump was winning and Israel. We talk about this next week. All right, let's look at exactly what you are waking up to this morning then in your trends. Now, after Cecily Mbarire went and hooked the president tough on the issue of the 2/3 gender rule, the president responded, and I would like for you to see this particular clip of the president speaking yesterday at that ODM, UDA, PG, at the Kenyatta International Conference Center. He did respond on exactly what they were doing about it. Let's take a look at it and then come back and see how Kenyans reacted.
There is need for a broad-based mediation committee is because the constitutional amendments that have been proposed, including that specific one on 2/3 gender rule, we need as a broad-based to agree on a common position, both in the National Assembly and the Senate. And Primarily, that is the reason why we are proposing that mediation committee. And we all agree in this PG that we are in support, at least party leader Oburu Oginga and myself support 100% the matter of the 2/3 gender rule, and this parliamentary group in its entirety, without any exceptions, support the 2-gender rule. We'll ask 2/3 gender rule. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Honestly says, we are all in. Yeah, we are all in. So thank you very much.
That's it. And this question actually was, I would say, asked by Cecily Mbarire, who said, President, before you get off your podium and go, you need to address the 2/3 gender rule. But the President is asking them about the aye, and they're not even in Parliament. I mean, if they wanted to pass it, they would have already passed it a long time ago. He's now saying they have an implementation committee on the 2/3 gender rule. He had already announced it a long time ago. If you do remember, he did announce this back in 2022, immediately after appointing judges. Then he said that this is the next step in my government agenda. In fact, in that top 8 things that he wanted to do, this was one of them. 4 years down the line, we're still asking the same question. All right, let's see exactly how Kenyans responded to this. Big Boy, when yanasema, when will we stop applauding politicians for simply asking a question that should have been a mandatory requirement from day one? All right, Moses Okech, saying women leaders have done nothing. I've not done anything good for this country. I mean, it doesn't matter, man. I mean, even the men leaders we have here, Bona Okech, hawajafanya kitu mingi sana bwana. Huh? But the Constitution says we need to achieve that parity and we need to fight to achieve it. Yeah, your sister might be wanting to get in and she will not get in, Bona, because we've not hit it. Yeah. And just like that, she has become a marked woman. Ruto doesn't condone those who challenge him. That is Mbongo Courier saying this morning. Nitri this morning was saying the Constitution has been butchered, it seems, even if it means paying some actors. Jayish was saying these questions are usually pre-discussed. Are they? Look to see if it was out of the ordinary. All right, Mr. Slim was saying, so you're not supposed to speak before the boss? Anyway, women leaders currently serving have become a public nuisance. This is according to Mr. Slim. Good. We cross over then to another trending issue for you this morning. Oburu Odinga also spoke at this particular event about how that 10-point agenda implementation report is going to look like. Let's listen to him and then come back and see your reaction.
As you can see, the 10-point agenda which we have been taken through is something which cannot end. It is something which will continue from today. It will continue into 2027 and it will go on because it is life. Most of these things which are contained here are actually concerning the livelihoods, the daily livelihoods of Kenyans. And we want to improve our society so that there will be no victimization of a victim, or we shall not have victims of police brutality. And our police are supposed to improve, and we want to improve them because they are our sons and sisters. We don't want them to go to jail for killing people. They should not kill people. They should be trained to help our people to fulfill constitutional requirements. If our constitution allows demonstrations, let them be allowed to demonstrate, but demonstrate according to the law. Not demonstrate, you just wake up and you say, I want to go and demonstrate because it is my constitutional right. Yes, it is your constitutional right, but the law states how you should do it. The law guides. You must be a law.
This is Ian this morning who's saying, such a shame. Your brother embodied demonstration as he was the one who inspired generations. Now you are here piecing on the gains that he made. This is Ian this morning. It's really hard going from Raila Amolo Odinga as a Tuesday to Oburu's statement on the right to demonstration and picketing. Gen Z told Baba to stay home. They went to the streets and for the very first time in history got into the people's house. History may repeat itself, but it might not be so kind to his kind. This is Tobias this morning who's saying this. Let me just read the final here. All right. This is Henry who's saying it won't be long before this fella calls for Mandamano and we will remind him of this. Finally, this is Mr. Guru this morning was saying, one time we'll soon discover that ODM was a sole proprietorship. All these others are just minor lizards that used to come for scraps at the table. They are of no consequence and no value at all. Wait to see exactly how that is, and that's what we talk about this morning. Finally then this morning I've got a clip for you that emanates from a Likoni ferry, and I'll talk over it so that we see exactly what goes on here. This is the situation at Likoni ferry, just crowded ferry, and it looks as if Mombasa residents have not stopped at that. You can see how people are hopping onto it at the last minute. Look at how full this particular ferry is. It doesn't read good at a time when the country is talking about losing 44 people to this kind of related accidents across the country. So if you're in Mombasa, please kindly, if you can, make sure that you do not participate in this kind of vice, because we don't want to have you in the headlines tomorrow talking about how we have lost another life again right here in the country. Be safe. Arrive alive. That's the most important thing out of everything that we're going to talk about. Good. That's exactly what you're waking up to this morning. Now then, let me just give you the highlights of that PG meeting at the Kenyatta International Conference Center between UDA and ODM, where the president was in attendance and top leaders from both sides. Now, what we do know is that 2 billion has been set aside for compensation of the victims of those protests. IPOA, according to that report, investigated 820 cases of police misconduct. Officers convicted or disciplined in that time, and the government withdrew a bill that would restrict protests across the country. That's the snapshot. Again, we do know that that committee has been given an extra 60 days to make sure then that all those submissions that they were supposed to submit have been done and dusted to allow the full implementation of that particular report, with the president saying that they are committed to make sure that that 10-point agenda has been implemented. Guess what? Some members of the Linda Mwananchi group vowed not to attend, and they defied that call from President Dr. William Ruto and said they will not step at KICC. And to that, we saw about 253 attend that particular sitting out of the expected 349. Those were missing heavily. From that was likes of Babu Wino, Member of Parliament for Embakasi East. We do have Edwin Sifuna, who is the Senator Nairobi, and the likes of James Orengo, the likes of Ototsi, who didn't appear absolutely at KICC, with statements saying that the 10-point agenda is already expired as of March 3rd. So they had nothing absolutely to do with it. Let's talk about that showdown at KICC. I'll be introducing the gentlemen who are going to take us through that conversation this morning on the other side of the studio. Yes, indeed, this morning I do have Mr. Wycliffe Alutalala, who is an MCA aspirant for UDA Ruto Award 2027. I do also have Rotich Kimutai, who's a political analyst. Once we come from this break, let's talk about that showdown at KICC. Does it mean anything that the Linda Mwananchi group missed that sitting right here at the Morning Drift at Lookup TV? Most certainly, talk to us at Lookup TV across all your social media platforms. The hashtag is the Morning Drift. Our WhatsApp lines are right there on your screen, so use them. Let's talk Let's deliberate on this particular issue once we come back from this break.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Look Up, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wasa wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hawa sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi man.
Mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
I recall the doctor telling me that day, he said, "Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but you see, life happens. You would have to learn to work with your hands, depend on your hands more."
And today, if you're going through anything that you do not understand, just call on this name, Jesus, and he will save you.
I realized I loved music when I was about 7 or 8. I used to puff my cheeks and play the 12-bar blues. Like I'd walk around the house doing like...
Why do we need the Holy Spirit?
I mean, if you look at what Jesus said when he was leaving, he said he is going and that he will send the Holy Spirit as our helper.
So God knows everything since the end, from the beginning, has a plan for your life. So to find that plan for your life, you must find God. When you find God, you will know the path for your life.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken the front line in transforming lives in the entire country. So far, we have transformed life of over 100,000 people through our programs, which include medical support, youth empowerment, street family program, feeding program, and climate change. Join us today as we transform lives. As we always say, service to humanity is service to God. Save a life, transforming lives.
Pindi tu taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Look Up, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi mazuri.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
As you can see, the 10-point agenda which we have been taken through is something which cannot end. It is something which will continue from today. It will continue into 2027, and it will go on because it is life. Most of these things which are contained here are actually concerning the livelihoods, the daily livelihoods of Kenyans. And we want to improve our society so that there will be no victimization of a victim, or we shall not have victims of police brutality. And our police are supposed to improve, and we want to improve them because they are our sons and sisters. We don't want them to go to jail for killing people. They should not kill people. They should be trained to help our people to fulfill constitutional requirements. If our constitution allows demonstrations, let them be allowed to demonstrate, but demonstrate according to the law. Not demonstrate, you just wake up and you say, I want to go and demonstrate because it is my constitutional right. Yes, it is your constitutional right, but the law states how you should do it. The law guides. We must be a law-abiding society. And by abiding by that, what we are saying is that those who violate the law, those who violate the Constitution should be punished. They should be punished. But we really don't want to trap our people that you employ them in police and then tomorrow you have not trained them well and you jail them. That is not the intention of the Constitution. We want our police to be professional, but for now we are going to compensate those who lost their lives. Compensation of life is not something which you can do. You cannot replace a life. You cannot compensate it. There is no cost to it. It is just to give some to give some pole to the people who lost their loved ones, and use pole for those who were injured.
Welcome back. My name is Elijah Charles Kiage. Let's talk about that particular issue. Then joining us this morning, we do have Kicc Kimutai, who is a political analyst. Mr. Kimutai, how are you doing, sir?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing good.
Happy to have you around. Also joining him in the studio this morning, we do have Mr. Wycliffe Alutalala, who is an MCA aspirant, UDA, Ruta Wada 2027. Wycliffe, how are you doing, sir?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Happy to have you around.
Thank you, sir.
Good. So there's just a lot that we have to look at this morning, and I'd like to jump into what is of importance, because now it's already confirmed that that 10-point agenda report, some parts of it are coming back to life, and I'll read for you exactly what that is. 2 billion shillings has been set aside for compensation of victims of protests as the first one. He also indicates that IPOA has investigated 820 cases of police misconduct. There's also here that officers in that period of investigation, some of them have been convicted or disciplined, as what the report showed, and that the government also has withdrawn a bill that would restrict protests across the country. Now, what we do know also in that sitting is that the committee for the implementation of that 10-point agenda plan has been given another 60 days to go on and implement that 10-point agenda plan, and also come back and give a report to the relevant parties in that UDA ODM conversation. That's what it is. Also yesterday, the likes of Edwin Sifuna or members of parliament allied to the Linda MWANANCHI group vowed not to attend, and they did not attend. According to them, the initial report, or actually the initial document on the 10-point best agenda indicated that it was going to expire on March 3rd. According to them, everything around the new signing that gives them a 60-day extension, and this report is null and void. Whew. Let me begin then. Mr. Kimutai, did it make sense for the likes of Edwin Sifuna and the members of parliament allied to the Linda MWANANCHI group to miss that PG, the ODM UDA PG?
Okay, first of all, I want to say that it's unfortunate that it happened 2 days less than the day agreed by the both parties, between the president and the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And also, I think so far, if the government was that much serious, it could have dealt with this thing long time ago.
Yes.
It was not that big deal for the government to take more than 1 year. 1 year to do an investigation or to do an compensation.
Yes.
If there was money to compensate these people, it would have taken only 6 months, because the government has records of those people, police brutality, and the victims who were affected by the demonstration. So it took government long. In fact, this BG meeting between ODM and UDA, I don't see any need for a BG meeting, because this thing was not, this report was not for the members of parliament. This report was it was an MOU. It was a MOU between Raila Odinga and President William Ruto. So it could have been so that kind for the president to honor that MOU and the agenda, and just to do what was necessary, because I read it and I saw it yesterday. It was all about promises again.
Yes.
Promised that it has been put aside 2 billion. He promised that we are going to do this. So we want, if the police who are convicted, they should give us the names, because, you know, if the IPO has the names, you give us, these police have been convicted, these so-and-so have been compensated. So at least to Kenyans, but these promises, we are much with these promises each and every day, promising, oh, I will do this, I'll do this. So he said 2 billion, but he has never given us a period that he is going to pay these people in this period. I'm giving out this amount of money between this period and this period. These people will be compensated.
They said by June 2026 that they should have compensated these victims. In fact, they even included victims from 2017.
So by June 2026? Let's wait. Let's wait.
All right. I'll be coming to you on the other details for that meeting. Mr. Wycliffe, good morning. I think it would be proper then for me to give you a couple of minutes. I'll give you a minute to speak to the people of the Ruto ward. What is it that you want to do for them in 2027? Let's begin like that before we jump into the conversation for the day.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I just want to say that I think in this country we are all aware that next year is an election year.
That's it.
And as parties, as candidates or aspirants, we are preparing. And I'm vying as an MCA in the Ruto ward, which is in the Great South. And the role of an MCA is very simple. Is actually to represent and legislate in the county assembly. And one of the reasons why I've decided to go and vie for this position, as someone who has grown up in Ruto,
yes,
is that over the years, I think we have lacked representation in the assembly.
That's it.
Not because we have not been doing elections, but because we have been doing elections, And we have been electing people who don't seem to understand the role of an MCA in the Assembly of Nairobi. That's why over the years, if you go to the records, we've never produced an MCA who has actually even tabled a motion in the Assembly of Nairobi. And that is why our area is still very, very backward, if I may call it,
yes,
in terms of development as an administrative ward. For example, in Riruta ward is one of the few wards in Nairobi that doesn't have a chief's office. Our chief is domiciled in another ward, actually in another constituency. Our chief operates from Dagoretti North. We are the only ward that doesn't have a dispensary,
yes,
by the county government. We are a ward that still has a lot of feeder roads that are not tarmacked. So it all boils down to leadership, and that is why I'm stepping in.
Pretty much.
Thank you.
Good. Now you do know that your MCA is seated right there in the studio. All the people of Riruta Ward, and by the way, you watch us a lot because you're our neighbors. So I do know that you're listening to him this morning then. Now let them jump into the conversation for the day. Kimutai says it was okay for the Linda Mwananchi team not to attend that ODM, UDA, PG meeting at KICC, that it has taken too long to implement this 10-point plan that they were supposed to implement in this broad-based government conversation. Do you agree that it was okay for the Linda Mwananchi group to defy the president and not appear at KICC?
Now, you know, that is a political question. And before we come to the direct answer, let me put it this way.
Yes.
Politics is not about being right. Politics is about interests. And politically speaking, about the whole idea of the 10-point agenda, we need to go back to how the whole idea of 10-point agenda came about.
No, sir.
This is an agreement that came about when the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and the current president, Dr. William Ruto, who is my party leader, chose to work together for the sake of peace, remembering that this is something that came after the Gen Z protests.
Yes.
So the biggest idea behind the 10-point agenda was to stabilize the country. And in the process of stabilizing the country, many issues came up. Some of them which were not actually very current. Some of them were of yesteryears. So what has happened is that from the day this document was signed and today, in between, one of the principles in that agreement passed on. That is the late Raila Odinga.
That's it.
Now, traditionally, and looking at Kenyan politics, from 1978, if we may just go back, when the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta died, the KANU party called for an NDC to make changes within the party. The late Jaramogi was in the state where now the Akinasifunas are today. What happened? By the time the NDC was convening, Jaramogi Oginga was actually not even in the picture. Why? Because the KANU machinery then had already made a decision of how they were going to reorganize the party and how they were going to move on. Fast forward to 2026, where we are today. Whatever is happening within ODM and about the Linda Mwananchi and the Linda ground, whatever, is not really about Mwananchi. It is about internal reorganization after the death of Raila.
Yes.
And looking at all parties, you will realize that whenever the party leader or the founder of a party dies, many things happen. As you all know, nature doesn't allow a vacuum. So when the late Raila Odinga died, it was obvious that these alignments were going to happen.
Yes.
Now, from the look of things, Dr. Oburu Odinga seems to be having the engine of the party. When I talk of the engine of the party, I mean he has the instruments of the party. And he has chosen to continue from where his late brother left by working with the government. Now, the young generation within the party, that is the young leadership within the party, led by the Sifunas and the Babuinos, feel that it is their time to take over the party. That is where the whole idea of choosing to attend the PG and not to attend the PG comes from.
That's it.
It is not about being right or being wrong. It is only that each side is choosing what is convenient for their future political discourse.
Yes,
yeah,
pretty much. Now, gentlemen, we do agree on what we're going to start from. So let me then reveal what the Linda Mwananchi has said. They said they're going to publish their independent report on the 10-point agenda that, according to them, should have already been implemented. Really, Kimutai, to what end if they do not want to support the process that is already ongoing?
Okay, there is something I want to tell my brother. He said that Oburu has the instruments of ODM.
Yes.
I want to tell him first that Oburu is a legitimate party leader of ODM. ODM had a party leader, the late Raila Amolo Odinga, and the deputies of the party. You should know that there was deputies and there are still deputies legitimately elected by the NDC.
Yes.
So Oburu is just like interim or just anashikilia the party until March 27, the elections of the NDC, the national delegation of ODM. You should know that, and in fact, this thing that it will not, I am even 100% sure that it will not happen, because already the people who are demanding for the 10-point agenda are the people singing two-term. So ODM, the Oburu faction, and the UDA are in one house singing the same thing. You are releasing a report not to an agreed parties. You are releasing a report to your own people. So Sifuna and the likes of Babu Owino are saying, we are going to give out our parallel report. It shows that they are opposing, or they are the people who are much keen on this report.
Yes.
Because right now, if the ODM faction of Akina Oburu were much serious, they could have even have questions to question the government that why it took long on this and this. But they went there, they sat down, they were given a report. And all the report was all about promises. We will, by this date.
Yes.
But the report initially, when Raila Amolo Odinga was still alive, the report was, it should be done by 7th March 2026. It was, it should be done by this time. And I want to ask him to tell us, where did the president say, we have done this and this and this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that should be the big question, that the president can tell people, I have managed to do about 50% or 60% of this report.
That's it.
The remaining 40%, I'll finish it by June.
Yes.
That should be the report.
Pretty much. Kimutai, just before I cross over to Wycliffe this morning, I mean, here you are. Yes, you do not agree that it has taken time for you to implement this report. That this report should have already been implemented a long time ago, according to you. And 4 days later, they've come and told you this is exactly where we are. We need another 60-day extension period for us to complete this implementation and then come back and give you that final report. Surely, Kimutai. So when you're going to release your independent report, to what effect is it going to have on the report that has been released? Why couldn't you respond after the release of this report?
Why should I go and hear lies? Why should I attend and hear promises? The big question should be, what were they releasing? Were they releasing report or promises?
Yes.
They were promising again. They were promising on the point agenda we had agreed of. But now you are promising to do something you had promised, we had agreed you should do it.
That's it.
Then now you are giving me a report of a promise also.
That's it.
That on I will give, I've set aside this, the IPO have done this. We want, you know, if the report, the meaning of a report is just telling people what you have done on that report. It's like an essay. When you have given a lesson to go and do a statistics or to go and find a report, you should not come with the report and promise people what you went to look for. You should come with the names from the high power. These police have been convicted. These people have been compensated. These and these have been relocated to this place. These, you know, the court cases. Do the government even knows how many court cases do the police have for the people? How many who are missing, extrajudicial killing, abductions?
Yes.
You know, the report, you know, the government should give a full report.
That's it.
It doesn't mean that these people are pushing the government, but the government should work hard and give the full report about what happened, where they are, and where and how many percent are they remaining to finish it.
They gave us a snapshot yesterday of exactly what they've done, and I'll just go right into it again. I mean, they've already said, and if you look, yes, there's some timeliness in what they said yesterday, Kimtai, before I cross over to Wycliffe. 2 billion has been set aside to compensate victims of this protest. And they say by June 2026, all the victims of police brutality and the protests will be compensated. Then they go around and say, IPOA has investigated 820 cases of police misconduct. So there's numbers in these two statements again. And they said, out of this, officers have either been convicted or disciplined, according to IPOA. And then the government has gone right ahead and said, you see that bill that we had put forward to make protests in the country illegal, we have withdrawn it. That Kenyans now can go right ahead and do their protest as they wish. Is that not a report, Kimutai, that you can take home?
So when somebody tells you, I've put aside 2 billion, that's not a report. You should come and say, this 2 billion has been distributed or have been compensated to this amount of people. These people have been given 1 billion or 500 million or this amount. The remaining one by June, we are going to finish it. That's a report.
Yes.
But putting aside, where? Which side? You know, he said we are putting aside. You know, this 2 billion should come from the budget. It's not somebody's pocket, the government budget. And you know very well that in Kenya, every budget is being read every June. We are now in March. So this 2 billion were budgeted when? Because the last budget, if I'm sure of it, it was not having any amount budgeted for these victims. So where the government should tell Kenyans, where did they get the 2 billion to compensate these people?
Yes.
Number two, they say the high power has investigated more than 800 police. Where's the report from the high power? It's simple. You give the people the report from the high power. High power is documented. We have investigated Central Police Station, Kamugui, all police stations in Kenya. And we have convicted how many police from each and every police station. But giving out about, that is an assumption of number. You know, sometimes we do like making PR and we do like coming to cameras and telling people that we have done this. But behind the cameras, we have done nothing. We have done nothing. So far, personally, I do believe, if you give me the figures, that high power, from the high power itself, from the government itself, the 2 billion from the budget, it should not even be the president, the CS for budget should say, I've dispatched 2 billion for compensation. I've set a committee. Yeah, where is the committee to sit and dispatch the money? So it's a process. But let's hope that June, because he has given us a timeline of 3 months.
Yes.
Let's give the president that 3 months, then he will come here and see
That's
if
it.
he has completed the second report.
That's it.
This is a second report.
That's it.
Yeah.
Mr. Wycliffe, this is where you have to come in and weigh in. The Linda Mwananchi has said they're going to release an independent report, theirs. But if you look at what was released yesterday, this 4-point agenda of what that committee has done so far, do you believe that the 2 billion that has been set aside for compensation of victims of protests by 2026, the 820 cases that of police misconduct that have been investigated, and Apo is saying that officers have been convicted or disciplined, and government withdrawing a bill that would restrict protests in the country, is now progress in the true faith of that 10-point agenda implementation? Or Linda Mwananchi is just trying to be stubborn?
Before I step into that question, let me just react to my brother's comments.
Yes.
When I listened to my brother here, I remember the statement that was made by the former Chief Justice Maraga when he was making a judgment on the presidential election, where he said, an election is not an event, it is a process. Now, I started by saying that as we discuss this issue of the 10-point agenda, we need to go back to the basics of how it came about and why it was called a 10-point agenda. Now, when we talk of a report, I'm actually finding my brother's comments being a bit, for lack of a better word, he seems to be conflicting himself. On one hand, he's saying the government didn't give a report. It gave promises. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, he's saying, let's see this report and hope that it will be implemented in the next 3 months. Now, when government says that IPOA has investigated 820 cases of police brutality,
yes,
is that not a report? That is a report. Now, do you know what it takes to investigate 820 cases? And this is not 820 cases in Nairobi. It is countrywide. The issue of time comes in. Now, number two, is my brother pretending not to know that immediately this 10-point agenda was drafted, the president came up with a compensation committee that was chaired by Professor Makau Mutua.
Yes.
What happened to that committee? Someone went to court. Court stopped that committee. And actually the court ruled that the person who has the legal right to determine compensation and investigate all these issues was Kenya National Human Rights Commission. So when we say that government took all this time, we need to bear in mind that whatever program government had towards this issue of compensation was actually stopped somewhere by the courts, and the government had to wait for courts to make a determination, which was done. Now, today, when we talk about the 10-point agenda, it is not just about the compensation. It is 10 points. We need to look at the entire document and ask ourselves, out of the 10 points that were agreed on, what has been done and what has not been done? And that is why, if you read the committee that was formed yesterday, and the reason why they were given 60 days is because out of the 10 points, whatever is left can be done in 2 months. Mm-hmm. If it was the entire 10 points, it could not be done in 2 months. They could have been given perhaps another 1 year. So what we are saying is, you know, in this country, it has become fashionable to oppose government. It looks fashionable, it looks popular, but in the midst of that opposition, we sometimes miss critical truth. And that is why, if you look at the opposition today, if we check from 2024 to date, yes, the number of names they have been giving to the president, including that tag that he was lying. Today, all the things that these guys were saying that the president lied are seen. They are there. He talked about SHA, it is there. He talked about Talanda, it is just across here. He talked about affordable housing, they are all over. So, even as we try to critique government, we have to be factual and realistic, and we have to be truthful to ourselves. For example, the issue of this particular 10-point agenda and the two sides,
yes,
I've put it very clearly here. It is neither about Mwananchi, it is about political realignment,
yes,
for future political interests. That's why, if you ask me, my good commentator here says Oburu Odinga is not, or is the party leader illegally. The same Edwin Sifuna, who is now leading the Linda Mwananchi Brigade,
yes,
was there when Oburu Odinga was being put in as the party leader. He was there.
No, he was in Dubai.
We can go. There are two things here. There is the day Oburu Odinga was announced, and there is the day Odinga was being unveiled. Sifuna was out of the country when Oburu was being announced, because he had gone to pick Baba's body. But when he came back, how many functions have we seen Sifuna attending in the presence of Oburu as the party leader? So what we are seeing here, these are just political gimmicks. And as I said, and I gave the example of 1978, the Kanu NDC.
That's it.
In politics, press statements, all manner of things never change the course of a political decision. On the 31st of this month, the ODM party will be having an NDC.
Yes.
Or 27th.
27th, yes.
And decisions will be made. And I can assure you, any NDC is as good as the conveners of that NDC.
That's it.
And one thing I'm sure about, and you can call me here after that NDC, anyone who is not aligned to Oburu Odinga as the party leader of ODM will go out.
Pretty much. Guess what, Kimutai, even as you get yourself ready to react to whatever I said, let's look at the gist of the 10-point agenda. And this is where it becomes a bit complex. And gentlemen, I want you to weigh in on this as well. Point number one in the 10-point agenda, it's standing right there, is implementation of the NATCO report. A report the majority of Kenyans have started to forget after spending so much money to have that report with us. And if you look at that NATCO report, what it essentially wants, number one, is creation of the office of the leader of the official opposition with 2 deputies and the office of the prime minister. Kimutai, does it become difficult as it is now for ODM to ask for the official office of the opposition when they are not the ones who are the opposition right now? Is that where the complexities begin? Is that why they're looking at it and saying, well, are we going to create an office for Rigathi Gachagua and his team? Is that what it is? And number two, when you look at the other things that they're asking for, they're talking about the cost of living and finance, they're talking about devolution and funds, they're talking about accountability and rights, all right? Measures to fight corruption, ensure the timely disbursement of funds to counties and the protection and protect the right to protest. That some of these things, the president can come boldly and say, I've already solved them. We don't need for that committee to come and tell us that we've actually achieved it. Is that what it is?
A NATCO report needs a referendum. You should know that. Making or creating an office of the opposition leader or prime minister needs a referendum. So they know very well that the government needs a budget, and we should go back to the people for public participation and campaign.
Yes.
To take report from the people, public participation, and then we go for a referendum. We make a vote of yes and no for that referendum to work, office of the prime minister and the opposition leader. So they know it's very difficult for them also to do that. And also, it's not hard for the government. There is nothing hard for the government to work on. There is nothing hard for the government. If the government wills to do something, it will do. You know, even this report, he said that I'm conflicting myself about the report. I've told him the report was there for the past 1 year. The report which was moved yesterday was not a report, it was a promise of the report. Promising that, or we are going to do ABCD. And I've told him, and I'm repeating again, if you have investigated 800, if IPOA has investigated 800 cases, they should tell us the convicted or the cases which are in court is this.
Yes.
From the 800 cases. But they have given us a report that it's 800. But they have not given us the main that from the 800, we have found 600 or 400 or 300 cases in court. Do you have the name of IPOA? I have not read it. But
then you are commenting from a point of lack of knowledge.
Even the state has not given out the report to the media houses. That
if this thing was yesterday,
yes.
This was yesterday.
No. The report should not
Have
be
you read the
made
report?
yesterday. I have not read the report. I saw I read from the president yesterday when he was reading out. I have not found the report. Even the media doesn't have the report. Do you have the report?
No, not yet.
No, they don't have the report.
Yes.
So the only report we are talking here is from the president's mouth. That's the report we have it. We want the report from the IPOA. We want the report. He said we have put aside 2 billion. We want the report from the CS Mbadi to tell us that this is the 2 billion. Last time teachers were complaining about unpaid who were the marking exams. CS said I've released the money. Did you hear about it? The president said the money is there. CS said I'm sorry. He apologized to Kenyans about the money. He told Kenyans that it was there and it was not there. You know, the problem with this government is that, you know, when we complain or when we scrutinize or when we be keen about this government, they feel like we inject or we don't want the government. And I want to tell him, he said also, Sifuna has attended a lot of meetings where Oburu was the Nini. Sifuna is not the one making Oburu legitimate. It's the constitution. I can attend your meeting even if you are not legally or legitimate. Sifuna has attended a lot of meetings because in constitution of ODM, Oburu is illegitimate. And Oburu was installed in the morning when they were bringing back the body of Baba from Dubai. So Sifuna is not the one making Oburu to be legitimate. It's the ODM constitution. And number two, who is going to call for this NDC for ODM? It should be the Secretary General. Who is the Secretary General? Sifuna.
No.
Who?
Not.
Who? Even you know very well who is the Secretary General.
Secretary General of ODM.
Who is the Secretary General?
You know, once a party organ sits and makes a decision, you are no longer an official.
But the court has said, the court has made it clear.
But he has not been reinstated. The court only stopped. But he has not. Yes. But he has not been reinstated.
And the court has not given.
If you look at the notice that has been issued for the NDC, it has been signed by the Deputy Secretary General. With Catherine Omanya.
The court put an injunction.
Yes, I want you to hold your thought right there, because once I come back, there's just a lot that I want us to touch on, because I also want Wycliffe to weigh in on the creation of the office of the opposition. Where is the opposition in this sense of the broad-based government conversation? And I want you to complete your thoughts on why the likes of Sifuna feel that they don't even want to look at that report and comment on it. All they want to say is we're going to release our separate independent report. Does it make sense? Talk to us at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. I can see some of you already speaking to me this morning. Once we come back, I would come back and read some of your comments this morning and put them across to our guests as well. Thank you very much. See you right after this break.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Look Up, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi mazuri.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
I recall the doctor telling me that day, he said, Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but you see, life happens. You would have to learn to work with your hands, depend on your hands more.
And today, if you're going through anything that you do not understand, just call on this name, Jesus, and he will save you.
I realized I loved music when I was about 7 or 8. I used to puff my cheeks and play the 12-bar blues. Like I'd walk around the house doing like...
Why do we need the Holy Spirit?
I mean, if you look at what Jesus said when he was leaving, he said he is going and that he will send the Holy Spirit as our helper.
So God knows everything since the end, from the beginning, has a plan for your life. So to find that plan for your life, you must find God. When you find God, you will know the path for your life.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage, still in conversation this morning with our guests. We're winning on the 10-point agenda that has become the talk of town, with the president meeting both the UDA and the ODM leaders, talking to them about where we are currently in that implementation. And he did say that he is committed to making sure that 100% of that report is implemented, giving that committee 60 more days to make sure that that work is done and dusted. Now, let's see exactly what this essentially means then. The couple of things that we have to look at, that the highlights of that report that the president read to us essentially didn't touch. Number one, it is the right to peaceful assembly in the country. And the likes of Edwin Sifuna and Babu Wino and Rigathi Gachagua have been speaking on it heavily. And we've seen all the way from 2023 up to where we are right now, Rigathi Gachagua has been on the receiving end of tear gas in his meetings, and even Pastor Dorcas, the wife, as well, in her meetings as well. We've seen skirmishes follow. The likes of Edwin Sifuna, the latest one being the Kitengela meeting, where they said, we will not sit back as you abuse the right to our freedom of expression and assembly. Kimutai, when they say that they have withdrawn a bill that would have restricted protests in the country, and we're seeing tear gas across the country, upwards of this year, does it become a bit ironic? Take 2 minutes. I would like to cross over to a clip as well.
No, saying and promising is the same thing. You say and you don't act.
Yes.
This report was being signed 1 year ago. But between that period of that 1 year making this report, they never did even stop this tear gassing and giving people freedom to assemble.
Yes.
You saw the latest one was even last week Sunday at Meru, where Rigathi Gachagua was refused to enter church, brought heavy policemen to bring in deputy president. You know, such kind, you're giving out a report, but what you did 3 days ago is against the report. You know, acting in this country has been something very hard. You know, if today we respect the rule of law, and we respect what we promised the people, or the report we have removed to the people. If you say today I will not tear gas you, let me tell you, the government said today we are giving you freedom to assemble. Maybe on a weekend you will see tear gassing people, disrupting our peaceful assembly. So abduction, they promised that in the 10-point agenda that we are not going to abduct anyone. But in that period of making the report, the abductions were going on in this country. You know, saying and working on it is two different things. We only say it on cameras. The following day, we forget what we said yesterday.
Yes.
So the only thing the government should do is to keep the talk. If you say today, I will do this, make it work. And it's very even simple. If you feel that you have done a lot for the people and you are okay, why should you disrupt a peaceful assembly? If you know the people believe in you, why should you disrupt somebody's peaceful assembly? Why should you even have worries? And why should you, if you do believe, if this ODM believes in the president, why are they much fighting for this ODM? Leave ODM to opposition like Kinasifuna, go to the government. You're already singing two-term. You're already saying the president, this is our president, we are not going to go to opposition. So what's the ODM for?
Yes.
In fact, the ODM are saying, we don't want opposition. So if you don't want opposition, what are you still doing? ODM was in opposition before. It was in Azimio. The Azimio was the minority. It's the opposition in parliament. Why are you still being in ODM? You just join UDA, the ruling party, sing the two-term. People who wants to be in ODM to sing the one-term, leave them. Then you face them, you are in the party.
That's it.
And you know, he said very well that William Ruto is his party leader. Fine. Why are you much concerned about ODM? And why is it that the UDA people or the UDA members are much concerned about the ODM issues? Why? If you are in ODM, if you are in the ruling party, why are you much concerned about ODM? Let ODM sort out their issues. And I've told him, and I will repeat to tell him, that the NDC will be called by the Secretary General of the party. Yes. And the Secretary General of the party is Sifuna. And he said that the court has halted the ouster of Sifuna. Registrar of political parties, even the accounts of ODM will be signed, or if they want to withdraw money or to do anything, the signatures of the Secretary General and the members, some about 5 members will be in. Now I want to tell him, and he should know, that if the court stops or put an injunction to any case, it doesn't mean that the person who intended to do that is right also. No, the court has stopped it. And if the court has stopped that Sifuna should not be hosted, it doesn't mean that he has been hosted. So Sifuna remains to be the Secretary General of ODM until the case is over.
Pretty much. Two issues that I want you to respond to. Number one, the NATCO report. And the first element of this NATCO report, if you look at its breakdown, it's saying we need the office of the opposition in this country with 2 deputies. We didn't even get to the point of discussing how these 2 deputies are going to come on place. What we do know is that it's point number 1 in this 10-point agenda. And then number 2, the likes of Sifuna keep on complaining that this government has not implemented fully what the NATCO report was also saying. There's some factors that also mirror the 10-point agenda with what is included in the NATCO report. Case in point, inclusivity in leadership and governance in the country, the fighting of corruption. And then they also point out, number 3, that the right to assembly and freedom of expression in this country has not been respected. Let me take you back to Kitengela as well, what I was putting to Kimutai as well. I mean, it's 2026 and we have seen the likes of Sifuna, the likes of Rigathi Gachagua face the brunt of police in this country in terms of dispersing their meetings. Do they have a point, Wycliffe, that you can't be telling us that you're implementing it when in reality what is on the ground is completely different? Could you start from the office of the opposition, which is point number 1, in that NADCO report?
First of all, before we come to the office of the opposition, the question you asked my friend here was about the withdrawal of the bill that was before Parliament that was going to restrict freedom of expression and assembly.
That's it.
Is it true there was a bill? Yes. Was the bill right? No, in my honest thinking.
Yes.
Has it been removed? Yes. So the thing is, he's talking about a report. So when the president says we have removed the bill that was before Parliament that was going to restrict these freedoms, is it a promise? No. He has done it. Now, back to the issue of the office of the opposition leader. Now, in this whole NADCO thing, it goes back to what I said, political theatrics. Why? Who chaired the NADCO committee from Azimio? Who were in the committee? Kalonzo Musyoka?
Yes.
Eugene Wamalwa.
That's it.
What happened when the final NADCO report was being signed? Eugene Wamalwa walked out. After earning all the allowances for the 3 months, when it came to the signing of the document, the final document, he pretends to walk out. Now, today, the 10-point agenda, which has almost 60% of what was in the NADCO report that Kalonzo Musyoka chaired at Bomas, the same Kalonzo Musyoka today does not support that. Reason? Political convenience. Now, let's come to the issue of the official opposition leader. If Kalonzo Musyoka chaired the NADCO committee at Bomas, today he is among the leading leaders in the opposition. Do you ask yourself why he is not pushing for that office? He chaired the committee. He is currently among the top leaders in the opposition. He understands what the NADCO report was about. He understands the 10-point agenda, what they are talking about. But today, he is silent about pushing for the office of the leader of opposition. Do you ask yourself why? Legally speaking, the timelines that we are left with, or the time that we are left with between now and the 2027 election, which is barely 17 months, cannot allow a referendum to create those two positions. Because for you to change the structure of government, you need a referendum. So for you to create the position of Prime Minister and the position of the official opposition, for it to be in the Constitution, you need a referendum. I don't think we have that time. Even just 2 months ago, you saw IBC write to the Chief Justice for an opinion on what they should do about boundary demarcation. Because we are late. We are actually supposed to have done boundary reviews.
Yes.
Practically, I saw the chair to IBC saying it is not possible to do boundary review between now and the next elections. So if we can't do boundary review, which is actually a constitutional requirement to be done after every, is it 10 years?
Yes.
Yes. Can we have the time to do the referendum? The answer is no. So partly, most of these guys understand kwamba it is not practically possible to do a referendum to change the constitution to bring those two positions. And also politically, it is convenient to their political strategy. And one thing I want to tell you, between now and 2027, you will see a lot of political realignment. And you will be shocked that even some of these guys who are shouting today loudest, by 2027, they will be in government. So the issue of official opposition and prime minister's positions, legally, it is not possible to have those positions as at now.
That's it.
Yeah. from a legal point of view.
Let's talk about the next one then, Wycliffe, which is even after withdrawing that bill that would have made it very difficult for any other person wanting to protest in the country to go right ahead and protest, we are still having the right to assembly still being tested in a 2026. Which is what makes the Linda Mwananchi team say, what are you telling us that you've implemented it? And they keep on speaking about it, that up to now, we're getting tear gassed in our meetings. What would be your response to that? Do they have something to take home?
You know, I said when I started that in politics there is nothing like being right. Reason being, like the case is mentioning about last Sunday.
Yes.
You know, our politicians are actually the problem in this whole scenario. Reason being, whenever we as citizens, we are doing our own businesses, we have no issue against one another. But what happens when politicians come to the space? For example, now, like last Sunday, there was a church where the deputy president was visiting. Then in the same church, I think they were consecrating a bishop, something.
That's it.
Leaders who are aligned to the opposition were also coming in.
That's it.
So what did the police do? Because the police also are Kenyans. They live here. They know what happens. And what happens whenever these two groups of people meet is that when one of them starts speaking, the supporters of the other person will always come in and start doing all manner of things, including heckling and whatever. What comes out is chaos. So in the interest of peace, as much as you have a right to assemble and be where you want to be, the police have a duty to maintain law and order. And that is what exactly the police did in Meru on Sunday.
That's it.
Because if they had allowed the two camps to come into that church with their supporters, automatically there was not going to be any peace in that place.
That's it. And that be it what it is. Just take a minute to respond to this. But we've seen events where tear gas is lobbed into church by the police officers. How would you respond to that?
Now, this issue of tear gas being lobbied into church is open to a lot of interpretation. And it depends on whom you're asking.
Is it really?
Yes.
I'm asking you this.
Because there have been cases whereby, we have seen cases whereby it has been alleged that those things were Photoshop.
That's it. But there are some events where the police have also come out to speak on it themselves and say that we actually are the people who are managing law and order in those events.
Yes.
Can you speak
now,
on
what happens in such cases is whereby, for example, we are in this room.
Yes.
This is where the function is. This is the church.
That's it.
Then outside the church, there are thousands of people who have actually who have not actually come to congregate.
That's it.
But who have come because of the political leaders who have come in, and they are creating chaos. Then when they are dispersed from outside the compound, they come into the church. What do you expect the police to do? That is how tear gas finds itself in the churches. Like what happened in, was it in Kayole?
That's
or Donholm?
Yes, Kayole.
Yes, there was something in Kayole.
Yes, and a church
that
in
was the
Nyeri
status.
as well. Yes, and Muranga, sorry.
Yeah.
Kimutai, what's your response to that?
Is you know, is giving out a pure lie like his government. You know, if, you know, what happened in Muranga, the opposition were going to church, peacefully going to their church. What were the presence of police? What were you dispersing in church? What were you dispersing in church? Church is a holy place. Church is a holy place people go and worship God. What happened in Meru? Church is a holy place. It's not a political arena. Church has...
Are you saying you've never seen politics?
Let me tell you. If today you go to church and pastor says that I will not give a chance to politicians to speak, you will not speak. Even if you are the president, it has their own rules.
Yes.
It's a church of God.
Yes.
And even those, and all congregants are the members of that church.
Yes. That is what is happening.
Kajako will not come from Mwamunyoro Nyeri with a lot of people to church in Meru. The people who will meet in that church are the people of that Meru, that AIC or APCA. if the deputy president was coming to that church, it was fine. The deputy president will sit here. In fact, that's a place. A church is a place to bring people together. A church is a place of forgiveness. People go there and forgive themselves in front of God. In fact, the church, if a deputy president and former deputy president met in church, it could have been even a reconciling place to have peace. Pastors will call them in front and pray for them. But bringing a lot of police. In Muranga, you're tear gassing church, hurting children, hurting bishops. For what? When they were going to Muranga, it was not a political event. There were no two factions. When they were here in Kayolo, there were no two factions. They were going to church. Why don't you leave people to go to church? And this is not what happened today. It happened even to then, the deputy president, who is the president now. He was in Muranga Kennel. He was tear gassed. And if you are particularly, the president was tear gassed some years back when he was the deputy president. And even the police stood at the altar with a tear gas. But the deputy president said it's okay. So it's not something new to this country.
Yes.
And it's something we should condemn as Christians.
Pretty much.
We should not do that to our people. Yeah.
I would like then for you to weigh in on this as well. And this is, and the likes of Bob Owino have spoken about it, gentlemen. Another part here is inclusivity in leadership. And this is exactly what has happened during the handshake of one William Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga. We've seen about 4 key leaders from ODM proceed to be government officials. Is that enough to say that leadership in this country has been inclusive? So we've already solved that. Let's move beyond that. That's already done and dusted.
We have only sorted political inclusivity, not Kenya is inclusive. That was a political inclusivity. John Badi is a Luo from Nyanza. Obio Wandai is a Luo from Nyanza. Oparanya is a Luya.
Joho.
And Joe is a Coast. And who was Joe, deputy party leader of ODM? Who was Oparanya, deputy party of ODM? Obio Wandai, minority leader of ODM. John Badi, nominated MP of ODM. That's a political. That's not inclusivity. That's a political. 2 deputies from one party, 2 people from one region. So that's not inclusivity. The meaning of inclusivity is the picture of the country. Bring the picture. And that was a political agreement between the late Raila Amolo Odinga and the president. And you know, what has killed this country so much is politics. Even, I don't want to say, even those ministers or the CSs,
yes,
they are incompetent. If you see their career and what they are standing for, it's 2 different things. 2 different things. Somebody manning health, somebody who knows nothing about health. Somebody manning mining, knows nothing about mining. Because of what? We are rewarding politically. We are rewarding politically our people. That's why we are messing up. You saw what happened in Nairobi, the Nini floods. I saw the Nini of people who are on disaster. Somebody having a degree in theology. Somebody should be a bishop. Studying for disaster. Librarian. So we give people positions. We give them the wrong position at the right time, which is wrong. If today, if this country, because I saw an interview of a certain CS who doesn't know even the kind of oils do we have in Kenya. There is a CS we have, he doesn't know. He was being asked which kind of oil. He said, we have oils. You know,
you can actually say it's Opio and I, because we are talking about it this morning.
It was hard for him.
Yes.
It was hard for him to tell Kenyans which kind of oil does Kenya produce. He doesn't know. And that is your CS. So if my CS doesn't know the oil, and he has been in that office more than 1 year, who am I to know? How many things does he know? So we are giving people responsibilities. People who, in fact, even maybe these a lot of shouts.
Yes.
Should not be even shouting. People should not be even shouting to the president. But because he's the one, the head of everything, people are giving him the blame. The blame should be in these people, even who doesn't know even what they are controlling. And lastly, I want to tell you what has affected this country so much.
Yes.
Is that we are disciplining people politically. You know, we have lost, even our devolution right now is dead. Devolution, because we are not electing people who manages the money of the counties. We are electing people who are going, because of political. If today UDA is the focal or the loudest part, they will elect my brother here. And maybe that person somewhere has been elected, he doesn't know even what he's going to do as a governor or a member of parliament. So I want to tell my people, if you're going to an election, electing an MP, electing a governor, mostly the governors who are doing devolution, elect a person who is accountable, a person who might have an experience before, or a person you know about the experiences. Why? I've never seen an accountant being a governor. Those are the people, you know, being a governor is a revolution, is accounting. We want people who will account for us. We have killed, he said in his word, he doesn't have a health dispensary. Why? Because who is your governor? What does he understand? He said he wrote a lot of things in his word. He said also chief's office is another constituency. I want to tell him, in fact, it's not even your role. It's a role of your member of parliament. Member of parliament. He has even a CDF to build a chief's office and a DC's and county commissioner's office.
Yes.
But because you have elected somebody who doesn't know what he was elected for, and you have seen a lot of members of parliament, they don't talk about the people. Right now, the ODM is singing only 2 terms. If you are for the 2 terms, they'll accept you. You find others are singing 1 term, maybe in Mount Kenya. If you are not singing 1 term, they will not. At the end, at 2027, we will elect people. When they'll reach parliament, they will not know what to say. The way that we have appointed people who doesn't know even their ministry what it stands for.
That's it.
That's our problem.
Pretty much. And I know you're gonna start with the right of response. Let me also talk about this as well. There's something called responsible resource management in that 10-point agenda. And this what there's, and it's simply, it reads, stop wasting of public funds and improving government efficiency through digitization. Wycliffe, I gotta tell you, we woke up, was it yesterday? Yes, we had that conversation in the studio where President Ruto is now spending 17 billion shillings annually. In fact, as we sit now, they've already exhausted the 2025-2026 budget, and they keep on going back to the consolidated fund to draw more funds to run that office. In fact, I'll give you a comparison. When we put it with what the White House spends, one of the biggest economy in the world, the president is spending more than the current president of the United States of America. The annual budget yearly. Even as we speak this morning, there are news awash about how we are losing so much money from SHA through corruption. The Auditor General's report says 50 billion shillings is not properly accounted for. In fact, last year, the biggest headline was 11 billion was already lost in just 14 months that SHA was in place. I've had a gentleman who was seated right there where you are, and they're asking the question, these economic empowerment programs, where are they getting their money from? We're asking questions that every time members of parliament allied to the government go out to churches, they are always contributing to the tune of millions. Where are they getting this money from? And those are the same questions that the Linda MWANANCHI group is also asking. It's like, why are we losing so much money? Why are you getting all this money to misuse? Do you believe that on responsible resource management in this country, that one is still elusive? And how, and what is this committee going to propose that is going to come and say that indeed now, on that agenda, this is exactly what we proposed and is getting implemented, Wycliffe?
Now, first, before I come to that, let me weigh in on the issue of inclusivity.
That's it.
I think when we narrow down our inclusivity agenda on the political angle, we are losing it. The biggest inclusivity that this president has managed and has delivered is economic inclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
I can assure you there is no part of this country today that is not seeing government development, from roads to housing to health to electrification. All those projects are spread countrywide. And if there is anything you can give to our people, it's development.
Yes.
We have had areas in this country where for the past 65 years of our independence, they never saw a tarmac road. Today, courtesy of devolution and courtesy of the president's commitment to leave no region outside the development plan, we are seeing roads across the country.
Yes.
So on the issue of inclusivity, personally, I would not want to dwell on the political side, because that is just one angle of our life. I want to dwell on the economic side and say here clearly that without any doubt in my mind, President William Ruto has managed to include every region of this country into his development plan. Now, back to the issue of resource management and wastage and all that. The biggest problem in this country is that many of our leaders only become very wise once they're out of government. But when they're in the same government, they either become so dumb or something happens. Because you will realize some of these people who are shouting loudest today about wastage in government were in the previous government by Uhuru, that was led by Uhuru. When the same President Uhuru was talking about the country losing 2 billion shillings per day, was it per day or per month?
Per day. Was it per day?
It was per
2
day.
billion per day.
They were there.
Yes.
But then, that was nothing. But today, they are the loudest shouting how the Ruto government is on a wastage spree.
But Ruto was also in the Uhuru's government.
Now, any government revolves around the president. How many times have we mentioned Kibaki being the best president? Do we ever remember Kalonzo was his deputy? So the president is the head of government, not the deputy. This country has enough laws.
Yes.
It has enough institutions.
Yes.
If it is talking about corruption, we have enough agencies from DCI, EACC, ODPP, all those institutions are there. And they are supposed to be working. So, for me, narrowing down the debate to one office, for example, like the office of the president, you know, there is one thing that happened when the president came in. The president changed our diplomatic approach and introduced something called economic diplomacy, whereby if you were to count, for example, the number of heads of state who have visited this country in the last 3 years and their delegations, they could actually surpass the number of delegations that visited Kenya during the entire Kibaki period.
Yes.
And that comes with a cost, you know. When a head of state is visiting this country, it comes with a cost. And that cost is borne by the state. So, what we need to look at is not just the figures of the monies that are being spent. We need to look at what is the value of this budget that is allocated to State House.
Yes.
So that we ask, this number of heads of states or diplomats have visited this country. What have we gotten from those visits? The president has also made several trips to other countries in the same economic diplomacy. What have we benefited? Because whenever the president is going out, he's going with a delegation, and it comes at a cost. What have we benefited from those investments? That is what needs to be looked at. But looking just at the figures, because we normally look at this thing very simplistically and say that this money is just being dished out to people without looking at the bigger picture of what actually happens at State House. Because that is where the budget is coming in. So for me, on the issue of corruption, I want to agree that as a country, we must do something more to fight corruption. Because looking at devolution, for example, this president is on record that for the first time in Kenya's devolution history, counties are receiving money on time. Meaning, if those funds were well utilized at the county level,
yes,
this country could be something else. But also it boils down to what he's saying. What type of leaders do we elect to manage these funds?
That's it.
Because the president heads the national government. We need to hold him accountable for the monies at the national level. But at the counties, for example, where do we place our blame?
Yes.
We place it at the governor's offices. So what type of governors do we elect? And as we talk about governors, we also need to understand that at the governor's level, the people who are supposed to oversight the governors are the MCS. So what type of MCS do we elect? I remember in 2017, in my home county, there is an MCA who proposed that county debate should be done in our mother tongue. It is on record. So if you are electing an MCA who is going to the assembly to propose that the assembly proceedings should be done in your mother tongue, do you expect him to oversight the governor? And the governor who has been elected is a whole doctor who has been a CEO of a serious organization here in Kenya. And you are expecting that governor to be oversighted by an MCA who wants to legislate in his mother tongue. That is where our problems begin.
That's it.
So corruption is something as a country we must look at and do something serious about it.
That's it.
Because the problem of corruption is actually affecting everyone. It doesn't matter whom you are supporting, it doesn't matter the party, it doesn't matter the region. Because when your hospital doesn't have drugs, when you go to that hospital, they don't ask you for your party. You need medication. When the roads are poor, when you are passing on that road, it doesn't matter which party you are supporting.
That's it.
If you are walking on foot, you will break your leg. If you are driving, your car will be damaged, you will spend money. So when it comes to issues of corruption, we have to take a decisive action as a country and say something needs to be done more.
Pretty much. Gentlemen, and I'm going to give you the time of response. We only have 3 minutes left for this conversation, so I'm going to give you a minute each. Squeeze your point into that minute as well. Now, what we do know, there's a question here that has been put across to you both, and this is what I'm going to respond to. This is Elias. Elias, good morning, sir. Some of your responses, I believe we've gone through them this morning. Elias was saying, I wonder why the president is still interested in negotiating with ODM. ODM is a broken party. Shouldn't he wait for them to settle their issues, then after tell them, let's come back to the negotiating table?
In inclusivity, and the inclusivity is that the development the president has done. Himself, he started that he wants to fight because he doesn't have a dispensary, and he has said here the health is working. He said that the roads is there, and he wants to fight because there is no roads. So I was just telling him, you started saying you want this seat because of ABCD, but now you are contradicting it, saying that in every region there are tarmac roads. So that is not inclusivity, and the government has not done that. Number two, he has shied.
So by ward lacking a road doesn't mean the entire 4 wards don't have a road.
Yes. And he has shied away about the 17 billion, telling us, even in a layman language, telling me that I've used 17 billion because visiting heads of states have visited me. How can you even tell somebody that?
Yes.
That even doesn't make any sense at all. 11 billion at SHA. It's not because we want DCI or EACC. It's Auditor General report. That is audit. Audit says 11 billion is missing.
That's it.
Tell Kenyans where is the 11 billion.
That's it.
Yeah.
As you're clear, on the minute for the president negotiating with ODM when they are essentially a broken story.
You know, you can't leave what you are breaking it.
That's it.
The president is the one breaking ODM. So why should he wait for? He's the one finishing ODM.
Pretty much.
Who is sponsoring even this?
Yes, I'm going to give you the same 1 minute as well. The question here that people are wondering, why is he negotiating with ODM when ODM is essentially a split faction? Should he wait for them to sort out their issues, then come back and even talk about the 10-point agenda?
Now, you see, the president has not started negotiating with the ODM now.
Yes.
The 10-point agenda is a product of a process that began way back when the party leader of ODM, the late Raila Odinga, was still alive. So the president is just continuing from where Raila left him with his ODM party.
That's it.
And there is nothing wrong negotiating with ODM because whatever is happening internally in ODM is ODM best. But as the broad best that they had created, he still has interest because that is what they agreed with Raila. There is nothing wrong in that.
That's it.
And you see, you cannot say, let me wait until they settle their issues, then I'll come in. What if they don't settle? What happens?
And you should know also, why are you negotiating where the senior party people who started ODM like Anyang' Nyong'o and NCI senator are not in? You are negotiating with people who was not there.
You don't force people to negotiate.
I'll call you again because we do know we are building up to that March 27th NDC. It's happening this month. We're going to see exactly how it goes down, isn't it? We're still going to come and see whether Edwin Sifuna is still the party secretary general after that NDC. We're going to come and see exactly whether Oburu Odinga is going to be the party leader after that NDC. I mean, both factions are speaking and they're quite loud about it. Guess what? Take them back online to the time that joined us this morning at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. I've been informed majority of you are online this morning. Thank you very much for keeping us company this morning in conversation with a Wycliffe Alutulala. Look for that name when you're going to vote in 2027 because he's saying is your Ruto MCA and he's already said he's got his task cut out. Also in conversation with one Votish Kimutai, who's a political analyst. We step out of the studio. I'll see you another time for another conversation. Good morning and goodbye.